Welcome to the Encouragement for Work podcast with your host, Mark Griffin, founder and owner of In His Name HR. Each week, Mark interviews nationally known thought leaders from corporate America, higher education, churches, and ministries. His goal is to bring you great ideas that help engage your employees, shift your culture toward higher performance, and increase employee loyalty at the organization you lead. Each episode features an idea or process that's made a tremendous impact on employees and employers alike. Now sit back, relax, and listen in as he delivers encouragement today through this episode's special guest.
Hello, and welcome to the Encouragement for Work podcast. I'm your host, Mark Griffin. In this episode, we're joined by Joanna Brown, founder and lead consultant of Eden Beacon, LLC. Joanna is a trusted advisor, executive coach, and leadership consultant who helps organizations and individuals grow with intention, integrity, and alignment. You're going to love hearing encouragement for work today. Joanna, welcome to the Encouragement for Work podcast. Could you tell the audience a little bit about your background?
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm just excited to talk about whatever, the Lord leads us to talk about today. So I've actually spent my career split in two. The first half of my career was really growing up in the corporate world. I started when I was 18. And then I left that space about 14, 15 years ago to become an entrepreneur and to really try to serve God more diligently through my work. So I've been doing a few different things, but the common thread throughout that whole last, half of my career has been really consulting for small to mid-sized businesses and even doing projects with really large Fortune 500 companies. But I'm in a stage now where the Lord has really been pushing me to take my faith and make it more of a cornerstone throughout my work. And so that's been an exciting new transition for me.
That's awesome. We're so excited to have you on with your experience because you, like me, had the opportunity, God gave you the opportunity to work in the corporate world and to have those experiences to bring, especially to smaller organizations that don't have those resources. One thing that's happening across our nation right now is there's a lot of people at work that are just upset. There's a lot of anger. There's a lot of issues with people not getting along. And I think post-COVID, we've seen the impact of what working in isolation's like. So one of the topics that we're going to be talking today is reconnecting to purpose when everything feels uncertain. And one of our most popular downloads has been about relational poverty. People are seeking out information on why do I have these feelings? What's going on? And who am I connecting with? So let's talk a little bit about reconnecting to purpose when everything feels uncertain. What's your thoughts around this, Joanna?
Yeah, I have so many. This is such an important thing just for leaders to really be conscious of right now, because we have all gone through so much change, but I would beg to say that the change is not going to slow down, right? So what do we normally do when change hits us? I think of four main things. We freak out, or we complain and grumble, or we turn to protecting ourselves, right? That self-protectionism mode. And some people just find the quickest escape route. But we know that in these moments of change and when things have been just really going in a direction that we didn't anticipate, purpose can really get thrown out the window in favor of those stressors that are right in front of us that blind us to the bigger picture. So I think about, doing a few things when I find myself, or let's even say that I'm working with leadership that finds themselves in a very upsetting time, right? Something happens, whether it was planned or unplanned. But I think the biggest thing for me to encourage others in is to always be grounded in the fact that God is not surprised by what we're going through right now. And that gives us a little level of peace that we may not have had, but also to remember that God is good and he can and will use anything and everything for our good and for his purposes ultimately. So if our purpose is tied into his, I think that's where everything stems. And as believers, of course, everyone probably listening to this podcast, that's already, check the box. But now it's a time to just contemplate how these transitions fit into the overall purpose. So we have to sit down, I think, and pray and reflect with God to get strategies for how to connect people and ourselves sometimes back to the purpose of both the organization and then their individual purposes. So I really do think it all starts with just, ignoring for a second the craziness that's in front of us and spending some quiet time with the Lord to reconnect with him, reconnect and reground ourselves with the purpose that he has for us. And from there, we can really start to hear, and our mind can start to be a little bit more freed up from all of the junk that's floating around. And we can start to be a little bit more purposeful and intentional in realigning ourselves.
Joanna, that's phenomenal. And that's so important. And so many of our listeners are going through transitions. It could be a job loss. And that really sticks with me. Organizations are letting people go. As an HR firm, we're getting calls, we're doing outplacements. And that might not be seen in the media as much, but a lot of organizations are losing people. And as we do outplacement, that's one thing that we talk to people about is, what's your why? And what's God calling you to do in this space? Because, 20 years ago or 30 years ago, I lost a job in corporate America. And that was a pivotal time for me to learn how to find a job, how to adapt to the situation, to allow me to have empathy. So going through that terrible situation at the time, which was terrible and humiliating, actually helped me become a better person and a better HR person so that I could have empathy. Now we have a firm that's doing outplacement for a lot of different companies. Had I not gone through that experience, God would have never allowed me to be capable of doing that. It's such a great concept that you have in that realm on the why. Do you have any other comments before we move into the next area of conversation?
Yeah, I just think, allowing God's peace to be with us no matter what our circumstances are, right? The chaos around us is not going to provide peace usually. So making sure in those moments, I resonate so much with your story about people who, right now we see so many individuals, very qualified, incredibly talented people finding themselves in the job market for 6, 9, 12 months, 24 months. It's absolutely heartbreaking.
It's mind-blowing, Joanna. It really is. You're seeing it, I'm seeing it, but many people aren't talking about it. And those people are so used to being in isolation from COVID, they're not telling people either. So it's a crisis because eventually they're not going to be able to pay their bills. So really, I hope as listeners are hearing your voice, it's time to wake up a little bit and shift and find what God's calling us to do. It's such a great point. Our second area is leading with encouragement, not just information. And that's a great statement. Tell me more about that and why that's on your heart, Joanna.
Yeah, it is because, I find that we spend as executives and leaders so much time in strategy and preparation for our companies. But how much time do we really spend in strategy and preparation for our people relationships and that whole concept of relational poverty? Oh my goodness, do I see it even honestly in my own life as well, professionally? And it's something I've been having to look at to say, oh my gosh, how did I get here? How did I come to a place where I don't have, tens of people that I can call at a moment's notice in my professional cadre to get help and support. And so we are in a very weird time. And so we need this so greatly. And we need to understand that encouragement is a very key part of combating relational poverty, right? So whether we're a leader or whether we're someone who, is a worker bee, encouragement is so huge. Sometimes you don't realize that our leaders don't get encouragement either. So really this goes both ways.
Exactly. And you have to break the cycle. And this encouragement and leading with encouragement is so important. And I'm going to throw out my friend Crystal Parker, the United States Christian Chamber of Commerce. It is exploding nationally because people want encouragement. They want to get together with other people and be encouraged about Christ and what Christ is doing in the workplace. They don't want to go to other chamber meetings where it's gloom and doom and not excitement. They want good, family-oriented information. They want their businesses to grow. And that's what we're seeing within the body of Christ is certain organizations are starting to really take off. I was at a Pennsylvania Christian Chamber of Commerce that just launched this year. There's over 40 people in the room. It's incredible. Just a couple weeks or months they're into it, and people are starting to attend. So, finding that encouragement is excellent. And then finally, we talk about encouragement fuels momentum when motivation is low. We want to change into a growth opportunity for organizations. Tell me a little bit more about that.
I think encouragement is just underrated as business professionals, right? And as leaders, because we don't realize how powerful it truly is. If you think back to someone who might have encouraged you as a listener in your career somewhere along the way, I have a few of those, not many, but I do have a few. And you really can diagnose, well, what did they do that really helped me, engaged me, put me up on a platform? I'm not talking like a platform that was shining in front of people, but my own personal platform where I could actually do my best work, right? And so if we think about people who are really good at this, that is the easiest way to bring translatable skills back to ourselves. We don't have to start from scratch. We can look at people who are really, really good at this. We can look at examples of this even through scripture and say, okay, how can I adopt these things for not only some self-talk, we might need to encourage ourselves and also encourage others around us. But the other thing too, I think, is just, taking time as leaders to be careful that we're not just self-focused, which is so hard to do. It's hard to do in this day and age because we have a lot going on, let's be honest. So just sitting down and making time and space for thinking and planning. I call it people planning. Planning, not workforce planning, right? Not career development planning, but planning how we're going to show up for our people. How are we going to encourage our people? Do we even know how they or what kind of encouragement they need? If we don't, that's a perfect opportunity and an open door to have conversations with them to say, you know what? I want to be better at encouraging you. I want to be better at giving you what you need. Can you help me to know what would be helpful to you? Kind of the whole adage, help me help you.
So that is something that we're seeing a resurgence. In the 90s, it was really popular to do employee climate surveys and then kind of got away from it. But we are doing that with our clients, and they're incredible because you can delve down into questions with, are you meeting on a regular basis? Do you have the resources that you need? Asking them about what benefits they have, not, making the decision for the employees, asking the employees first. And then through those climate surveys, having focus groups, breaking people out and saying, here's the information that we received. What do you think about this and how can we add on to it? It's also a great time to revisit your mission, your vision, your values, and get people really excited about where the organization is going, because we need that excitement in the workplaces. So we talked about encouragement fuels momentum. And then finally, how do we turn change into a growth opportunity for folks? How do we posture that change to people to get them excited and to develop a value proposition with them?
Right. I think the very hardest thing about change and leading people through change is understanding and coming to terms with the fact that most people are going to be thinking of themselves, right? And what they're losing in this change. And so we can't ignore that part. We have to understand that we can tackle that head on, and that's okay. We can actually, first and foremost, be real with our people to say, okay, I understand this change comes with some perceived negatives or real life negatives for you. And you can deal with that. And I think there's a way of dealing with that without trying to sweep it under the rug, because when we try to sweep it under the rug and we just try to force people into trying to believe all of this is good, then we just seem disingenuous, and that's not good, or disingenuous. And so what we want to do is be real, but also then move to, well, can you think of a change that happened in your past that was also maybe something you didn't expect? But what happened because of, was there any positives that came out of that change? And where can you align your purpose in the midst of this change, right? And really start to map that out, help them map that out, right? Don't just throw it on them, but say, hey, can we have a brainstorming session about how we can both find purpose in this? Humble yourself as the leader to say, I'm going through this with you, right? And it's just doing the work with people, serving them as Jesus served his disciples and still to this day serves us, and finding ways to do it with them, hold their hands, proverbially, with them down the path.
And be transparent, like you said. They know anyway, they can tell by your face as an executive what's going on. And like downsizing, for instance, we're dealing with some colleges that have to let some professors go, executive staff, and you have to have a narrative to tell the rest of the employees. If it's true that you're not going to be doing any more downsizing for the next conceivable future, let them know. Say, hey, we had to let 15 people go. We love them. We're helping them with outplacement. We don't anticipate doing any for another 3 years. If that's true. If it's not true, be honest and say, yes, we've let 15 people go. We're in difficult times. However, our mission, vision, values says X, Y, and Z. If we can get to these numbers, we don't need to do a downsizing again. And that's where I think organizations fail. They don't level it up and give the people that are remaining in the organization the ideas to get back up to speed, to go back to all the faculty and the executives and say, yeah, we let 15 people go. We're going to do our mission, vision, values, but also we got to increase enrollment by 10% and we'll be out of this problem. That's the way to do it. That brings positivity and it gives all the employees something to contribute to get out of the issue. But if you don't leave a way to get out of the issue, they're just going to continue to walk in fear.
Instead of trying to do pre-damage control, right? Because out of a spirit of fear, we're trying to prevent more damage or more consequence. Instead of looking at it like that, we should, as leaders, look at it like, Lord, what is the opportunity for us to continue to drive our purpose and to help reignite those within our teams toward the purpose, and to be honest about, like you said, this is the current state of affairs. We wish it wasn't this way. Gosh, maybe we failed in certain areas to get us here, but we want to move the needle forward. We want to move forward. We want you to help us move forward. And here's how we think we can do that. But we'd also love to hear from you. You're bright, intelligent individuals, and we want you to be a part of this.
Wonderful. Joanna, you've been a great guest. We could talk for another 20 minutes. We're way over time. Sorry, listeners, we try to keep it succinct, but this has been a great conversation. In closing, could you tell the listeners a little bit about your book? We'll have the link in the description for people to buy it, but a little bit about why you created the book, and then a little bit of closing for the audience.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I wrote a book last summer called Don't Die in the Desert. It really is for believers. It's more of a discipleship book, but it's helping believers get out of the desert and into what their promised land is. This side of heaven, right? Our ultimate promised land is heaven. But here, God has a purpose for us, and he wants us to be able to move and work freely in that purpose. And so it's really to just get past all those obstacles so that we can be more effective in the kingdom, no matter where he places us. So I just want to encourage people at the end here, God has given you and will continue to give you many resources to do your jobs well, to show up in this world and make an impact for the kingdom, even no matter if you're an ice cream scooper or if you are a CEO. So be encouraged, bring encouragement back into your work, and you will see the Lord work through you.
Thank you so much, Joanna. Again, a great guest. We'll definitely have you back on because there's so many subjects that you and I can share to encourage the listeners. So thank you for tuning in. Bye-bye now.
This episode of Encouragement for Work has been brought to you by Job Shepherd. Post-COVID-19 recruitment has been unquestionably hard for employers, with many struggling to find quality employees in the aftermath. Religious exempt employers have had an especially difficult time. Welcome to Job Shepherd, a platform that will change all of this for you. Job Shepherd was created to meet the demand by Christian employers, including ministries, camps, churches, colleges, and Christian for-profit companies in their search for qualified job candidates. Now, for a limited time only, employers post a job for free. Job seekers, come join us. You are always free. Learn more at www.jobshepherd.com.